Welcome back to the Dana Grant Show, where we are focused on heart-centered entrepreneurship. And boy, do I have a special guest for you in the house today. Not only do I consider them like stellar, beautiful humans, just their faith, their integrity, their love, friends. I could go on and on. I love the both of you. Julie Nee, Amy P. Kelly, welcome to the Dana Grant Show. We have been trying to do this for a while.
We have, and we are thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for having us.
Do you guys know that you're my first duo? So what I'm going to do is ask each of you questions, and if the other one would like to say, "Hey, I'm going to let Amy take over," you guys, because you guys are such a force and synergy from the day I met you. It's like soul sisters. I loved how you show up. I love the connection. There's just something about you, the both of you, your books. I remember your first book reading it. I think it was You Grow Girl before the new book that just came out. And that's the latest book is The Gift of Growth, which I cannot wait to get my hands on. I cannot wait. When you were just explaining it, I'm like over the moon for that kind of daily. It's just, yeah. So, okay, Julie, talk about the new book. Before we go into anything
Okay.
else, we're diving right into the book and then we'll unfold all the other stuff. You know I don't do things in like linear mode.
Let's just go.
Let's
Yeah, we
just
don't need to
go.
be
Let's
linear.
just
So,
let's just
yes.
go.
The newest book is called The Gift of Growth, and we launched this in March on Women's History Month. We try to be really intentional about our launch dates. And the
Mm,
subtitle of this is Plant Presence Every Day. And the idea of the book is to give people an opportunity every single day to get inspired and to grow. And so the gift every single day is an inspirational quote. And we pulled the quotes from all over the world, from history, from current times, from all different kinds of leaders in different spaces and historians
mhm.
and people we're inspired by. But every day the gift is the quote, and then every day the growth is a growth action that is connected to the quote. So we wrote those growth actions to connect
Mm.
to these quotes from all over the place. And it's cool that you asked me about it right at the beginning because I was looking this morning at today's quote. And today's quote is from one of our friends and colleagues, and her name is Petra Krebs. I think you know her too.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
the
yeah.
quote
Love her.
is, yes, the quote is shift your focus from what is wrong to what is strong. And so that's the
Mm.
gift. And then the quote, the growth is name three strengths that you possess. So that's the requested action for today. So maybe listeners and us and everyone
Mm.
that's involved in this is we can kind of after this just really write down three strengths that we have ourselves. So yeah, that's
Oh,
the
I
gift of
love
growth.
that. You guys are so empowering. I've watched you on stages, I've watched you in rooms as colleagues, as leaders. You always, you guys just regulate. I've never seen, even in the worst of situations when everything's falling away, you guys just show up with so much heart and love. So, okay, that's just me. Like, I could gush over you guys because I love you so much. But I wrote down, so Amy, I'm going to ask you with what she just said in your books, in life, not even just in the books, what would you say is the number one growth action that people can take that they can take right now that they're listening to this and they're saying, "Oh, I don't know three things about myself." Because we get this overwhelm, especially if we got stories going on that are negative. What's one thing that they can just stop and do? Wash, rinse, repeat.
Yep. I think there are two. The first one is working on admitting when you're wrong with grace. I
Mm,
hear from all different types of family members, leaders,
mm,
executives, team members that regardless of where they are in their journey, the impact of just being able to say, "Oh, I made a mistake," or "That was my responsibility," and not blaming yourself, but just
right.
being really humble about admitting errors so that other people can be freed up. And I find that even people who think they're good at this, when they're so attached to something important to them, they default back to not wanting to have made an error. And it really is just so painful and potentially damaging to those around them when everyone's waiting for us to take responsibility for something. It doesn't have to linger, it doesn't have to make you feel horrible. It's just that freedom, and it's a great growth action. And I just want to say the other one because I've spent years working on this
Oh,
myself and
love
with
it.
with
Love it.
with other executives. You said the word, getting better at listening.
Mm.
Getting bet and I know that people might be thinking, "Oh, that's not new." Well, our intention to get better at it is a never-ending fount of opportunity. Especially when you're passionate and excited about the things that you offer through your purpose, just stopping to listen to what that means to others is a great way to grow.
Oh, I love that so much. It sounds like so much part of my journey. So, Julie, I'm going to ask you. So, for the people that are listening to this that are really reactive and they don't take a breath, they don't respond, they need to be right because it just means this fight or flight energy. And they just need to be, and they don't even know how attached they are to their story of being right. Because what would it mean if they were wrong? What would you say to them that they don't know how to take the breath. They don't know how to pause. They're just in this I need you to hear me instead of listening and stopping and pausing and saying, yeah, I'm going to take accountability. I was wrong. And well, I know what both feel like. So, what would you say to those that are in that mode right now of operation? Because I know a lot of people are.
Yeah, it's interesting that you asked that because I was about to say the word pause before you kind of extended that into the question. But the truth is, in that instance, when we are not regulated and we are confronted with something where we're about to just, pounce on somebody, we do have to pause and be intentional. And sometimes the best way to do that is to just take a few breaths. And I know you
Mm,
already know about this, Dana. I know that you've talked about it, but just taking control of our nervous system through the power of our breath, whether that's a few box breaths or if it's, in for
mm,
5 and out for 5, just a 3 or 5 times is such an important thing. And
yeah.
the second part of that is really just being self aware. And we're kind of building to this topic outside of what Amy was saying, but I did some research when I was writing my first book, Mirror Mirror, about self awareness. And there was a statistic that said 90% of people think that they're self aware, but only 15%, 10 to 15% actually are. So even in that
Wow.
example that you just shared, that person doesn't even know that they're about to pounce on someone. That's just what they do. So closing the
Yeah.
gap between our perceived self awareness and our actual self awareness by stepping back. And I know Amy and I talked about some things when we wrote You Grow Girl on this topic about just sometimes we might need to actually take a walk. Like
Yeah.
we maybe can we come to back to this conversation a little bit later? I want to process it and think about it a little bit more. And I promise I'll come back to it and follow up. And maybe we have to walk around the building or shake it off with a song or do something else before we react. But it all comes back to being really intentional before we react or respond to something.
Well, I love that response. I'm a nerd, a statistic junkie. I love statistics. I didn't know it was 15%, but
Yeah.
I was probably one of those 15% that up until 45, I was incredibly explosive, reactive. I was a road rager. I mean, I did not
Mm,
but what I didn't understand, I was not aware. I realized that I tapped into that to get my power, and it was like the pendulum was like this, and it wasn't until probably menopause, I just crashed and burned at an epic level, and I said, "I
mhm,
can't live this I can't survive in this world anymore." And so what do you say for the people that the 15 percenters that aren't aware, they're doing it, they have no clue they're doing it, and now we're bringing it to their attention, they're like, "That sounds like me. If I had listened to this, there would have been shame attached too." Like, no, no, I'm okay. I wasn't okay at all on any level. And it was
mhm,
attached to a lot of illness, a lot of addiction, a lot of everything. And then, I wouldn't say I cracked the code, but I would say that the healing is a process. And even at
mhm.
60, I'm going to continue to heal till the day I die. What would you say to those 15% that are just starting this journey, or maybe they're in the middle of it? What do they need to know? What do they need to listen to? How can they? I know I love breathing. You're right. I'm a huge advocate for breathing and saying, isn't that interesting? Instead of responding. But okay, they're going to react. They're in it. How do they get off that playing field and say, whoa, wait a minute? How can they pause there?
I would say there's two things, and it's really about one or the other, maybe both, but asking for input or inviting input or being able to receive constructive input when someone else is courageous enough to give you some feedback. And I'll just tell a really quick, funny story about when I was very junior in my career and I was quite intense. So, like, just I was a grinder and a driver and a thriver and all the things. And one
I'm
time my
still
boss came
intense.
to,
I'm still intense.
yes, I might still be, but I mean, I had teammates telling me I was intense, but this one particular
Mm,
conversation with my boss was, your team, you need to kind of like almost like you need to simmer down a little bit because you
mm.
are intimidating to your teammates. And I was like, what? Me
Me?
intimidating? I just have high standards for myself and others. What's wrong with that? And so it was kind of, I wasn't aware that that
Yeah.
kind of mentality of, I just have high standards for myself and others was off putting to others. So it took him being willing to tell me the truth so I could kind of, and I don't want to say I had to change myself and mold
Mhm.
myself, but I had to be willing to accept the feedback that I was getting about
Did
my
you
own
accept it right away, or
behaviors.
were you offended, hurt? Did you go home and cry? Did you say, that's not true? Or were you like open to it? Because a lot of people, we
Um,
know they're not open to it, where they're
yeah,
crying in their car. They're like, they're so mean. How could they do this to me? They're not. So we know that's the
yeah,
15%. I've been there.
yeah.
I'm not saying
And
this for
I would say
anybody
no,
out
I did
there.
not
I've been
accept
there.
it.
Yeah.
I did not accept it at first.
Yeah.
So it just
Okay.
takes time to process those things. And I don't expect anyone to be like hearing something very difficult and then immediately go, I'm changed, right? That's just not life.
I love that. I read a quote. It just happened. I'm changed. How do we facilitate? Amy, I'm going to ask you. How do we facilitate an environment? You guys are all about environment of growth. How do we facilitate an environment of growth? It is not a one and done. We know that. There's going to be we're going to be tripping all over ourselves in the beginning. And I know you said grace already. Have grace. Be kind to yourself. Um, that's an ongoing process. But what about that environment? You know, people are living in maybe they're even living in toxic situations, and perhaps they don't have any idea how to get out of that. They might even not even know it's toxic. So, what about the environment? Maybe physical, maybe mental, all of it. I'm going to let you
Mhm.
expand there.
Thank you. We talk about four different ways or areas to create
Mm.
the environment for growth in our book. And the
Mm.
first one, you mentioned it, you create the environment in your mind. And there are specific things inside that area. I'll come back to that, but I want to give you the environments. The
Mhm.
other area is your physical space around you. What's around you and how does that impact you? Then we look at who are you surrounding yourself with? What's the environment of the people that are impacting you, that you're inviting in, that you're keeping in, that you're allowing to impact the environment for growth around you? And then the final one is the tools and resources that you curate. And we use the word curate. It's a great word. I'm
It
sure we
is.
have some lovers of the word curate out there because if you were to give me something, which you have, I would prioritize that as a growth tool because I know a little bit about the alignment of our values and the other things that we hold as important. So when you're curating, there's so many, and it's a great thing that there are so many different tools and resources available. We've got to curate ones that align with our values. So your mind, your physical environment, the people, and then those tools and resources that you curate. And we have the ability to impact all four of those things. And the power is in the consistent practicing. We've got to find models and tools that we align with, that resonate with us, because there is no one perfect way to do any of this. If people tell you that about creating an environment, everyone is different. If you hear that, I would tend to say be a little skeptical because we're so unique. The way that people are reached is very unique too. There are
Yeah.
proven practices, and sometimes the proven practices work for one individual. You mentioned, you had a crash at, menopause, and one thing
Oh
that
yeah.
worked for you earlier may not have worked for you at that point. I've certainly experienced that time and
Exactly.
again. So All those four things are some of those tools that you can start to think about. And as we just started a new school year, as you know, you go into a new quarter with, or a new fiscal year for a company, we actually just had some really powerful conversations about things like our environment. Even
Mm,
getting that cleared out, and what is impacting us and what can we do about it. So it empowers you, and you
mm.
can create those environments. Just one more thing is, when we're creating employment brands and environments where companies want people to grow, those four things are also key elements of creating a world-class, engaged, and retained workforce, because they all impact you personally and professionally.
Is there perfection in all this? I know you're both very faith-based. Were you born faith-based? Did you come out of families faith-based, or was it something that evolved in your life? I know I'm going to ask both of you, Julie first, and that's a two-part question, and then Amy.
Well, I'm glad you asked this because you're going to see that we're different in this regard in terms of kind of where we came from and what our experience was. So yes, I grew up in a faith environment, but not a traditional one. So much more leaning spiritual. So
Hmm.
specifically, the church is called Unity. It's not Unitarian, it's just called Unity. So it's
Mm.
very kind of open-minded and I guess inclusive. I don't want to say anything that sounds political because that's not
I
what I
I
mean,
think I
but
know Unity. So
it's
I know exactly what you're
very
talking about.
warm
Yeah.
and very wonderful, and that's just what it was, but it leaned a lot more spiritual, not necessarily religion. So that's a
Right.
big that kind of the spiritual practices have always been a big part of the foundation for me. So I still you mentioned before we started recording kind of having both, being a seer and
Yeah.
um, a faithful person and kind of the balance between those. And I'd love to talk to you more about that because um, just we all get our faith and our spiritual guidance from different places. And I still do pull
Yeah.
it from different places too.
So give people permission to get their faith through different places.
Yes.
Like I was telling you guys before we started taping, that I went into I was invited to this church, Church of Christ, and Pastor Benner, who had five daughters, and I didn't come from a faith-based family. I came from a lot of chaos, and I I anchored into that. I rode the joy bus, the memories, the foundation there. I went to church camp every year. He paid for that.
Mm,
It wasn't that we couldn't afford it, but it just wasn't valued. And every summer I would go there. Even when I moved from that town, I remember one summer being 12 riding the mail bus because that's how I got to um, transportation to get me to the mountains for the and he made all that happen. I'm so fond of him to this day. I think about him a lot, about the impact he had on my life. I don't know where my life would have gone, but without, and I didn't really understand religion. What I understood was connection, love. I
mhm.
remember calling home and saying, "Mom, I was 10. Mom, can I be baptized at church camp?" And she said, "No, you're not old enough." And I had been baptized and it was a no. And I was heartbroken, crushed. Um, and I still haven't been baptized. It's one of those things that I think it's still on like my checklist. There's been something, but you're right. The spirituality, there was that. And then I morphed into a lot of spirituality. Then pendulum went back and said, how do I have space for both? How can I believe this and believe this? Because so many people say you cannot do it. And of course the world judges you for both. You're too much that, you're too much that. Amy, I'm going to ask you, what about your life and what about the expansion of what we just talked about, spirituality and religion?
All I can think about right now is Dana, is I'm like, where are you? Because I want to come and I would baptize you right now. I mean, we could do that. You can be baptized anywhere. And in the word, it says,
Mm.
believe and receive that your joy may be full. And just, I offer that. Like, my husband and I will get in the car or fly
And come to California.
yeah, yeah. Well, you know
Can we
what?
do it in
Yes,
the well,
because
I don't know if we
he
want to
would.
do it in the ocean. It's too cold. I'm
Well,
not
my
cold
son did
plunging at
his
all.
baptism in the river, and it was funny because the pastor who baptized him was in a wetsuit, and my youngest son, we call him Polar Bear because he walked right in his shorts and everyone was in awe of that. To answer your question, and I really mean that, because
Mhm.
Jim would change everything, and we would love to come do that. We thought about getting a bus during the pandemic. We didn't end up doing it for a number of
Wow.
reasons. And going and finding people on our team who said they were ready to be baptized. So I grew up in a more I grew up in the Episcopal Church, and I had a wonderful
Mhm.
experience there. I was they were everyone was very loving, and we did different things the same way in church often. So what I'm getting at is, at some point when my husband and I were dating and getting ready to get married, we both knew that we were just kind of seeking a relationship.
Mhm.
And we went to a non-denominational church. And for me, that's where I really learned about having a personal relationship with Jesus.
Mhm.
And religion is something that is separate to me from that relationship. They go hand in hand in many cases,
Yeah.
but the relationship is the priority. And when I think about, just people, one of my books is called Glue, Dana. It's a short
Mhm.
story, and Glue stands for God's love unites everyone. And when we talk about
Oh, I can't wait
unity,
to read that. I mean,
yeah, it's called a
that just
leadership.
hit me in the chest. It's like I got and Mirror, Mirror, I have read. I wanted to say that I didn't want to interrupt you. Love that book.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you
yeah.
for
I'm
just being
huge fans of
encouraging.
both of you.
Yeah, Mirror Mirror is a fantastic book, and
Yeah,
it goes back to what you're doing and what we are endeavoring to do, which is Psalm
yeah,
138:8 says, "The Lord will fulfill his purpose for you." We're
yeah,
working to walk out our purpose, and you will
yeah,
resonate with people, even though we align in a lot of values. We're very different, all of us, and you will reach
yeah,
people and you'll be able to love them. And you talked about unity. Unity is a divine thing. I don't know that man has figured out really how to create unity without some of that divinity, because
right.
there are so many different opinions, perspectives, and the more passionate we are about different things, the more likely there is to be a chance for disagreement and then breaks. And in Glue, it talks about when you might have even heard of that Japanese type of pottery where
Yeah.
something is broken and then it's joined back together with golden resin, and the
Oh, I did an
value
event
is
on that
even,
once. Love that. Yeah.
yeah, it's even higher valued after being broken and re-adhered with this beautiful golden resin. And that
Mm.
can be true of relationships, but we don't always get there. And we can get
Yeah.
in our own way, and we don't want to be peacemakers with people who've hurt us. And so I'm
Oh,
connecting.
whoa, 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 let's slow down around that. We don't want to be peacemakers with people that hurt us. What about that? What about having being huge violations, perhaps someone's not to use too many terminologies, but most of it, because there's so much out there right now, people pretty much know what gaslighting is, and people that have betrayed. In my book, there's a lot of betrayal, a lot of gaslighting, a lot of until I found safety in here, I found safety out there. I needed that approval. There's a lot of people out there listening right now that are dealing with this, and
Mhm.
they want that, they want everything to be okay. Hey, I am a Libra too. I need it's probably why I was a lobbyist for something. I want balance and harmony, even though I'm not an astrologist and don't know a lot about it. I just know certain things. And that is, I know me. And I know that I don't like distension. I don't like disagreements. I don't like and I've had to be okay with situations that are not okay, of bringing people back into my life that want to come back in, that have hurt me and betrayed me deeply. And that's a big struggle. What do you say to those people? Because that was a big statement you just said,
It
Amy.
is. And, they're something that on the surface, without going too deep into it, might be unpopular, but we can always unpack it later, Dana, if we need to.
Yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
you said, go there, go there. Is this
We're
idea
going
that,
deep, people. We're
uh,
going deep all the way
yes,
down.
we do. And
Yeah.
being a peacemaker is about the unity inside yourself too, with your God. You may be hurt by someone, and I like Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. It says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. He will direct you." So if I were to try to attempt to reunite or heal with someone that is not responding, is not being kind, there is a point where I trust that I am to move back from that. You don't want to continue to be in a position that is harmful. I do have with practice, you can get better at healing yourself and
Mhm.
also healing how the relationship impacts you and potentially impacting the other person for good. But you don't have to stay
Yeah.
there beating your head against the wall on that, because
Mhm.
when I think about the healing process, people say I need to have boundaries. And
Mhm.
and those are great things. They are great things. We don't want our boundaries to become barriers to
Mm.
understanding how to create a more transcendent peace, because
Good.
by working a little bit on the relationship, it doesn't mean that particular relationship or person needs to be a part of your life all the time. It helps you to heal too. And you have to be guided in a very divine way as to
Mm.
when that needs to be not a one-on-one connection anymore. You might not go back into a personal relationship, but you can get that unity and healing that is available through attempting peace. And that peace can then reside inside you.
I
You
think it's not always
sometimes
peaceful at first, though, is it? It's like you're sitting in the uncomfortable mess of like,
Mhm.
I need everything to be okay, but it's not okay. And you know, and there's relationships, not to interrupt, that we maintain, and we're still showing up in love, but we feel something. Our intuition is showing up, and we know this relationship has changed. We might
Mhm.
know certain things. Do we keep showing up and ignoring the signs? Or when do we listen to the intuition and say, this doesn't feel good? And how do we ignore the stories that it might be our stories that created this? And it has
Mhm.
nothing, they're just doing their thing. They don't, they're clueless to what they're doing. So there's a paradigm. It swings over here, has nothing to do with them, everything with us. I think everything has to do with us. But they might be shifting and changing and moving away, and it's a not feel good relationship. And where along the way do we decipher? Is it me? Is it them? And how do I handle this? I think in
Mhm.
a world of business and surrounded with women and women that support women, we know that it can be hurtful out there in this land of um, I wouldn't say feminine energy because there's a lot of masculine energy there too. In this womanhood of entrepreneurship of women, I get messages all the time. How can you be friends with her? She hurt me. And I'm like, whoa, I love you both. But I'm not, it's not my job to be a peacekeeper. So it's kind of a three-part question for you. And I
Mhm.
know, Julie, I don't know if you want to answer, but Amy, let you answer. And then Amy, I want you to jump in because I mean, Amy, it was like, I interrupted you and like, can you expand on
That's
that?
okay. Whoever wants to, Julie, you can go first, and because I've been speaking, I
Yeah.
definitely have
Who
something to
feels
share.
best aligned with that kind of three-part messy all over diving down, coming back up for air question?
Gosh, I'm not even sure that I know exactly what part of the question I'm answering right now, but just
Doesn't
when
matter.
I was listening to you talk about kind of relationships and
Mhm.
fracturing and potential judgment of why are you friends with this person and why aren't you
Yeah.
friends with that person, really just the one thing that came to my mind is warnings that I have received from people along the way, sort of like what you were just describing, like, oh, you know what, we don't like that person, or
Yeah.
don't work with that person, or you know what,
Yeah.
they're not a hard worker, or they're whatever the
Well,
judgment
let's
is,
let's
right?
even take it a step further. It might sound like this. So people that aren't looking at me, I'm quoting, you know, I just have a feeling about her. And this is a person of influence, and they have a lot of influence on someone. I just don't know about her. And it plants the seed of doubt
Yes.
when they could have
And that
edified and they know they might have an angst or something personal, but they're going to use their influence to influence others with that.
Yeah, I think for me, I really try. I'm not perfect at anything, but
Yeah.
I really try in those situations to set that aside and have
Mhm.
my own relationship and make my own judgment and make my own assessment. And I don't mean make a judgment, like a negative judgment, but I'm going to try to get to know that person a little bit
Right.
myself and say, "Oh my gosh, I love that person," or "Oh my gosh, you know what? You're right. I noticed they don't complete their tasks on time," or whatever
Yeah.
the issue is, right? But I really, really try to
Yeah.
just do my own self-assessment and not go with the crowd, because when we go with the crowd, that's just we're followers, right? Then we're not
Right.
leaders and we're not trusting our own heart and our own intuition. So I would just suggest in those situations, just make your own judgment. Just because someone else said it doesn't mean
Mm.
it's right.
So you need grace and love for yourself, for others to step back, create space, and have compassion, and without judgment, try to hold this. That can be lonely sometimes,
For
because
sure.
e- I just think being a leader sometimes can be lonely in a world of, that pendulum where women want to, everyone I think wants to belong, not just women. They want to belong. They want the support. They want the connection. What would you say to those people that are put in that sometimes a double bind? And maybe Amy, you can answer that. The double bind of I love you, I love you. I don't want to be the bad guy. I sometimes say it's walking a barn pole.
Mhm.
It's like sometimes someone's going to go away. How can people be okay with that?
Mhm. Well, I will tell you that the first conversation I always have is with myself. And you asked about faith. I'll ask God to search my heart and to help me understand what's really happening there. And
Mm,
so say someone says that to me. If someone that I don't know is willing to speak so negatively of someone so quickly, I would not have a positive feeling about that. I
mm,
wouldn't make a judgment. I would just
yeah.
be wondering, like, we don't know each other. If
Mm,
we had a close relationship and I had a sense that, oh, out of wisdom, they're not gossiping, they're not trying to tell me something negative about someone else, they're actually trying to protect. And obviously, I'm making those decisions, but I would be
yeah.
anyone who would come into a group and proclaim something so negative about someone else, I would immediately feel, ooh, either one, they have been really hurt and there's something that has happened, which could be the case and sometimes
Yeah.
is the case. Or I would wonder about that the judgment of entering into a space and immediately
Mm.
starting to tear someone down. So that is one thing. I would just wonder. I would still not be judging. I would be
Of course,
listening.
it's not always that blatant. People don't just come in and start sabotaging. It might be, like I said, planting a seed of like, oh, I
Well,
had an
that's
interesting
worse, I think.
experience, but I'm not going to share that. I mean, I see it
The
all.
seeds are worse than the blatant, in my opinion,
I
because I
think so.
think
I think
that
so
there's
too.
more calculation there. But again,
Yeah.
I'm making a judgment on that. I'm telling a story, but I've tended to see in the past that individuals who are planting those seeds may or may not be aware of their motives, but
Yeah.
it feels like there's a calculated effort to shape people's perspectives, which
Yes.
I want people to make their own choices. And I want to be with others who, in the majority of the time, want me to make my own choices as well. And for everyone to have the freedom to
Mm,
potentially be forgiven and operate as they
mm,
grow, because anyone can grow. I believe that. I believe that. And I have been hurt. I just want to get real. Like you said, there are people that is so hard for me to do. And I
yeah.
struggle. And I may not be the one that fully has a relationship ever with that individual. And
Uh-huh.
that you don't have to. But I don't go around trying to, if it was someone who was going to steal or hurt someone, I'm
Yeah.
very suspect of me being the determining factor of whether anyone else gets to flourish and grow beyond a past
Mm,
mistake.
that's
I don't want to
powerful.
rob them
Wow.
of their opportunity to grow.
Can you say that again? I don't want to be the determining factor of whether somebody has the opportunity to flourish.
Sure. I don't want to be the determining factor of whether someone has the opportunity to flourish. I had someone call me for a reference about someone that I still have not got a fully mended relationship with. And you said, what do you do in the moment? And Julie was talking about pausing. Well, I said, oh, thank you for calling me. I do want to do this. I'm going to have to
Yeah.
call you back. Like, can I get back in touch with you? Because
Yeah.
I knew I needed to pray or meditate, whatever anyone
Yeah.
does about it. I knew I was going to do it. I wanted to
Mm,
be truthful, be supportive, figure out what the right thing was. And ultimately, I
mm,
told the truth about when we had worked together, what we had done, and I shared what was truly positive. I also thought about, is there a need for me to speak up about something that had happened to me personally? Should I tell the truth, which is hard? It wasn't necessary in that context for me to
mm,
share something that had happened in the past, and that person got the job. And I still haven't talked to that person, but I've heard wonderful things about what she
mm,
is doing. And we still haven't resolved our relationship. But like you said, I don't want to be the determining factor because I have
mm,
made so many foibles. I mean, it's some that are obviously bigger than others that
yeah.
I have grown from. And I've, in the case where it hurt someone, I have apologized,
Yeah.
But not always has that apology been received in the way that I would have loved, but I do feel at peace with what has occurred because of how it's been approached. So, there's a
Mhm.
lot like you said, it's not that simple, but when you have models and practices and we're really tuned in to, I want peace for the other person, I want peace within myself, I'm trying to tap into that divine peace that is available to everyone through, you know, being mindful. And you I got to write a book with John Gordon about this topic called Difficult Conversations Don't Have to Be Difficult.
Yeah,
That
I
is
love that book too. I mean,
in
I could have
in
given I should have just listed off the books. I mean, these are all bestsellers. Just keep listing off the books.
I
Yeah,
use the model that's in that book, and I just want to
yeah,
share one piece of it because the S, there's a star 3 model, and the
yeah.
first thing you do is you think about, is this about, it stands for small ego big mission, which is something John Gordon has been, touting and talking about for years and years and years.
Yeah.
Is this about me or is this about you and me, Dana? This situation. Because
Mm,
if it's just about me, I'm not ready to enter in to create any peace for you or
mm.
myself. And that's where that
Wow.
introspection is really powerful. And a lot of times, too, I'll find myself asking, what is our we? Do we still
Mm.
have a place for we? And the we might be, you know what, right now I do release and wish them well and I want the best, but maybe we're not on the same purpose and vision and that's okay. But and that gives peace to both people for the moment and there's still room for that to
Mhm.
change. We don't have to make it be a permanent break.
I'm so glad you
Remember,
added that.
yeah, the golden resin is available to all of us. I really believe that. The
I love
golden
that, the
resin is
golden resin.
out there,
You know,
girl.
I didn't plan
And
on having this conversation at all. I mean, I've, like, got notes, like, we were going down a whole different path, but I think this is one of the most valuable conversations right now that I see out in the world and connections, the struggles, the angst of what people and women are going through, and I think this is so beneficial, so beneficial. I'm so grateful for both of you on this conversation and being so candid and frank and sharing your own story, but giving the tools. Um, Thank you. Julie, I wrote this down as Amy was talking. How do we plant new seeds? Okay, so here we're in the world and we're the ego's out of well, they don't know their ego's out of control. They're trying their egos, trying to protect them. They're defensive. They got to be right because what would it mean if they were wrong in their minds? They just haven't even accepted that. So they're out there firing away and the days are exhausting and I think that a lot of people are probably resonating with this and they're like, I'm done with this. How do I change? I mean, I remember being done with this. Like, I can't live this way anymore. I didn't even know the wounds, the pain, the layers that I was going to dive into. If I did, I don't know if I would have been that brave. But I have a life full of trauma and chaos. But for people that are listening, and I think a lot of people carry trauma and chaos, whether they know it or not, how do they plant new seeds when they think it's never going to change? This is, and maybe they've said, this is just who I am. This is just who I am.
Ooh.
Take me or leave me or love me or go. All those superlatives, all those statements. What do you say to them?
I certainly have had a lot of those conversations myself with people because I'm a person who tends to want to grow all the time. And
Yeah.
I have had people around me who don't. But specifically, how do we plant new seeds? I think the truth is people stay stuck and fearful, and they're afraid to take the leap and do the thing that they want to do. And I think the biggest example, I have a number of examples of this, but the biggest example for me was when I left corporate
Mhm.
America after a long career, 25 years in corporate America, to
Right.
kind of start all the things that have happened over the last 10 years, which is writing and speaking and being part of a team with Amy and founding this business together and writing the books that we've written together. So separately and together, we've done all the things. But when you're in it,
Mm.
and I remember having conversations with my husband about it, and I was like, I'm so burned out, I'm so drained, I'm so tired. I just need to do something else. And kind of those initial conversations, well, can you hang on for the first time it was like 10 more years. And I was like, no. And then it was like, five, can you power through for 5 more years? No. Can you power through till
Yeah.
the end of the year? Okay, yes.
Yeah.
But during that time, especially in that last year or two, there was a lot of seed planting going on for the new phase, right? So speaking for free, building a relationship with John Gordon at the time, writing down ideas that I had for things that I wanted to pursue. And even in You Grow Girl, we wrote about capturing your ideas. Just it could be a note on your phone that you capture all the time, all the time. You're adding to it all the time, idea seeds. And then at some point you can structure those idea seeds into seed packets, literally just like the seed packets that you plant in the garden. But don't ignore your ideas. They're coming to you for a reason. And a lot of
Mm,
times we just push them aside. Oh, well, I'm never going to be able to do that. Or I can't quit my day job. Or I need health insurance. Or what about my kids? My kids need me. Or that's stupid. 10 people are already doing that, or thousands of people are already doing that. I mean, we as women entrepreneurs, we see so many people doing the things that we're out there doing. And it's really easy to convince yourself that everything has already been done. But
right.
the truth is, it hasn't been done your way, Dana, or your way, Amy, or my way, or all of our ways together. It just hasn't been done with our unique gifts. And so, what I would say about planting seeds is don't let fear hold you back. Just do it. Capture them and capture them and capture them. And then just start doing tiny things to inch you forward. And before you know it, those little moments and those little tiny things are going to lead to a big snowball of momentum. I used to say this to my team at Hershey all the time. Moments
Mm,
lead to momentum. So it's a moment stacked on another moment, stacked on another moment that becomes a
mm.
snowball of moments and impact that we can all make. But we can't stay stuck in our fear and stuck in a list of 100 great ideas. We have to do something about it. So take action on those ideas that give you energy and excitement and just make your heart explode. Do something about those.
Wow, this is I don't even know what to highlight here. There's so this is like a treasure trove. If it I would download this podcast and play it over and over again if I was in the world and felt a skosh messy, not even messy. I might even listen to it over and over again because it's great reinforcement. I love the analogy of gardening because you know I'm a huge gardener. Every morning I go out and water my garden, and this afternoon I'll pick fresh tomatoes and my eggplant, and but there's something cathartic about it and healing. And I visualize planting these seeds, watching. I just love the process, and I think it does mimic life that we plant the seeds and we don't know what it's going to look
Mhm.
like or how much water it's going to take. And sometimes we're like, oh, too much water, kill the seed, and we can plant another seed and another.
Yes.
I love John. As a kid, I loved the stories about Johnny Appleseed. You know, I visualized him running with that sack, throwing apple seeds out. I remember reading the book. I don't know, what is that, third, fourth grade? I was an avid reader. I read every book in the library. It was just where I found my peace. But that book I read over and over again because I thought, and I didn't even know it then. And I think that people
Yeah.
are drawn to things even now. And I think it's important to pay attention to the signs that like I look back on that and I thought, I was even back then visualizing planting new seeds in my life that I'm not destined to be an adult daughter of an alcoholic with the wounds and the pain and the abandonment and a mother that was failed to attach and all those things that felt I went into the world so wounded. And I think that anyone that's listening to this, your advice, and not just advice, you guys, it's tried and true. You're not just spewing off things that you haven't done and haven't experienced. I mean, we don't have to have tons of trauma to be able to teach this, but this is so sound and so grounded on what practical steps people can take when they go into the world. And we know the world is full of wounded people. What is that saying? Hurt people
Mhm.
hurt people. You
That's
know,
right.
hurt people hurt people. Wow,
Well,
this is, I'm gonna look down at my notes and oh wow.
I
How
just want to say I love what you said about Johnny Appleseed because I love that story too.
yeah,
And
so
one of
great.
the things that goes along with what we're talking about is I was thinking we don't just plant seeds for ourselves. I know that everyone here knows that. Johnny
Mm.
Appleseed was like moving on down the road because what was
Planting apples
behind
for
him.
everybody.
Right. It was really about that beautiful outcome and the trust
Yeah.
that as he planted and moved on, things were happening. And it wasn't him standing there, standing over the seed, going, "What's your problem? Like, you need to do this. I'm expecting you to look like this."
Why
There
didn't you
was
look like the tree that I
right.
a mile ago that I
Yeah,
planted?
Yeah,
The
and I
weather,
think
the elements. I love that analogy.
yeah,
Ooh, that's good.
I love it too. I mean, you could do a lot with that. I love that you it resonates
Mm,
with you and you could really teach well just that story of being safe in the library and just how that he's there. But that story is so good because many times when you're talking about trauma, we all have trauma. Everyone has trauma. Some things that are traumatic to me are not traumatic to other people, but they still created
right,
trauma in our lives. And
right.
one of the things that helps in that seed planting is planting seeds for others, knowingly I'm planting seeds for myself, and I think that that is very important. We've got to nurture those ideas, like Julie said, and really believe in our own dreams that have been put in our heart. And when you're having an issue, especially like the ones that we were talking about earlier, the most powerful healing for
Mm,
me sometimes has been to go and plant a seed on behalf of someone else. I see a spark in them or have an opportunity to just look at what they're doing and believe in them. And I'm like, what seeds can I plant for you? And in that,
love that.
both of our gifts end up operating. And just what, like Julie said at the beginning with that quote from Petra,
Yeah,
it's spotting other people's seeds and strengths and how can there be that unity in that instead of, the single siloed pursuit. Johnny Appleseed was like,
yeah,
hurrah, right? Like, let me
yeah.
just throw those seeds out of my bag.
Apples for
And
all. Yeah,
yeah, it's true. Apple strong. It's and it helps. We're not the first people to talk about thinking outside of ourselves to get freedom.
yeah.
It's worth re-examining.
So service,
There's
we're not
healing.
talking about people pleasing. We're talking about being of service. How can I
Yes.
help you? How can I edify? What can I do for you? And mean it. And mean it. Not,
And how can
oh
I
my
see
gosh, I'm
you?
all about women, supporting women, and there's no connection, ground, no seed is planted. It's just
How can
a
I see you
superlative.
differently?
Can I see
How
you
can I
differently?
take I have an instinct sometimes because of past experiences to experience a new person who looks or
Mm,
acts like someone from my past and I'll think, "Oh, I've seen that before." I'm like, "What are you doing,
mm,
Amy?
yeah.
This is a new opportunity." And so it's helped my eyes change
Oh, I
and
love that.
that more seeds get planted.
I'm gonna say I love that because I have been guilty of saying, "I recognize this behavior," and I'm like, "Wait a minute, that's a story. This is how, the lie whether the truth is all about the stories that aren't true." And it's about, you know, re-examining and saying, I don't know this person. They haven't had a relationship yet. Maybe I'm gonna walk a little more cautiously because I see a flag, but I like to lean in. I think whatever we focus on, if I'm leaning into all their red flags, they're going to be like, it's going to be a flagship of a sea of red. Or I could also lean into the green flags and say, what beautiful things can I find in them and illuminate those so they can perhaps bloom and illuminate those too. Like you said, we have to have grace and love. And if we show it, if we mirror it back, I think they might see themselves differently.
Oh, for sure. You're talking about, I know you know this, it is very powerful to think about that confirmation bias that is so well
Yeah.
researched. Once we
Mhm.
make an opinion or start to feel a certain way, we look for the evidence to confirm that we're right. We're like, oh, she did it again. Oh, that person did it. Oh, I knew that was coming. And
Yeah.
like
Didn't
your book
Brené
says,
Brown do that research? She did, and if we look for it, we're going to find it. I don't know if she's the original one that did it, but she did a podcast. It might be have been in her TED talk that was so powerful, including the one if you're not in the arena getting your ass kicked,
Hmm.
zip it, zip it. It's like just zip it. If you or my mom used to say, if you can't say something positive, don't say anything at all. There's certain things that makes sense. Like, if you can be still and not say, I think being negative sometimes can be addictive because it seems more popular than spewing off. Well, how can you turn that around and love them? Someone said to me yesterday, well, you don't know the history. And I'm like, I don't need to know the history.
Hmm.
The history is the history. You know, just either catch and release, either love them and release them, or if you want them back in your life, sit down and have that you guys are the perfect, perfect, perfect women to have this conversation with because it's tried and true. You've written, I don't know how many books about this in different formats, but it's all the same in the essence of the continuity, the consistency, the love, the grace, the faith, all the things that move us forward in our life. You guys are amazing. You're
Thank you for seeing that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I couldn't wait to, I mean, we've tried to, you guys are busy women. And I don't know how long we've been trying to have you on the show, 8 months, and
Well,
just,
I think it was perfectly timed
it's,
because we
oh,
also got to be here as part of your book launch, and
oh,
we're so
thank you.
excited for you. And it's cool because this is the living example of women and humans supporting each other and loving each other in all of our things that we're doing, right? It's not one
Mhm.
is better than the other or one is more exciting than the other or whatever. Yours is pretty exciting, but it's all of us just supporting and loving on each other. And that's really what it should be.
And I said it in the beginning, and I'm going to go full circle. You guys just don't say it. You showed up at my book launch yesterday, and I was reading the comments this morning. Your love, support, and regardless of what you were doing, and this is not to, once again, I don't want anyone to feel bad about not showing up, but I just want to say thank you. I'm so grateful for you guys to showing up and the love and support, because it's like, what are they? Here's another superlative, walking the walk, talking the talk. I don't know anything you guys have ever told me that you haven't followed through on, and that integrity is beautiful. I love that. We don't always get the opportunity. Mistakes happen, things happen, but I think we have to be intentional. And I think
Yes.
I appreciate how intentional you both are with
Well,
how you show up in the world.
thank you for that. I feel like out of that intention of integrity, both of
Mhm.
us knew about the book launch. Both of us had put it on our calendar. Both of us encourage each other all the time. And we
Love that.
weren't sure, but Julie encouraged me. And I wanted to go. We both were focused on it, but it was teamwork and women supporting women that ended up getting us both there. Because sometimes there'll be things where I'm like, I don't know, Julie. And she'll say, you got to go. It's going to be great. We both know that. And
Yeah.
or sometimes it might be me saying we're going to be in this thing, right? And yes, and I know not everyone always has that, but
Yeah.
we do have it available to us. Like you're part of that.
Yeah.
And so it's really, don't feel like, you've been so kind. You've said for the people that weren't there, it is okay.
Yeah.
And you've got to use those tools of intention. You've got to use your team to help you stay focused on the things you've said are
Yeah.
important. And then
Yeah.
you've got to take that step, because showing up is a big part of everything. And we were
Yeah.
there.
And
But
like
it
you
took a
said, the
team.
environment you surround yourself in, look at you guys. Teamwork makes the dream work. And
Yes, it does.
and it's so important not to beat yourself up and say, I can do better next time. I know that when I feel I probably feel more disappointed when I'm not able to do things that I want to
Yeah.
do. But what you just said and how you guys show up have just, it kind of mirrored back at me that I could do better in this area too. People that have asked me to write reviews, people that have sent private messages, and I'm like, and the days are so full with our own lives, and my intentions are I want to do it, but I'm going to
Hmm.
tell you, and it is not an age related thing. It's probably an ADHD thing. Um, if I don't screenshot it, write it down, and become intentional, it's there. My heart is there. I want to do it. And they'll niggle me and remind me. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to do it. But if I don't do it right then, it's gone. I think a lot of us are like that. So, yeah, tell me what we can do. She got your little fingers
I
up. I'm
just
like, what
want to
are the
tell
three
you
things we can
and then
do?
I want to go to Julie. Sorry.
Yeah.
There were three things that got me there. One was you. When we met, you were
Mm,
powerful, you were listening, you were concerned about not just me, but everyone else there in the room. Second, and so that was the number one thing, because of who you were when I met you, and
thank you.
you were not focused on yourself, you were focused on other people. Second was Julie, reminding me about our shared values and about the things that we hold important, and giving me that extra encouragement when some other things were happening around me. And third, you told me that I had a nice fanny at a particular event, and the
I love
compliment,
that. I
not
love
many
that.
people have the freedom to do that. I know you men listening, you can't go around telling everyone that they have a nice derriere, but Dana said it privately in the sweetest way. And I was like, maybe my bum isn't so bad after all.
Well,
So those
you
three
were
things.
dancing up on a chair in front of me, and I'm like, I want a bum like that. And of course, you'll see a video tomorrow of me dancing with my book launch, and you'll be like, she's got no bum at all. Nope, I don't. And people are like, buy those underwears with bums in them. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. This is my body. I love it. It's always been this way. But I saw that and I'm like, that is a really, really much. How is but you dance great too. And I'm like, I just
Thank
got to
you.
share it with her. I think
We
it's
were
important.
loving Brooke's
Yeah.
event at
Yeah.
Align. We were
Yeah.
using our
We were
drumsticks
rocking
and
out.
we were joyfully dancing just like you at your book launch. And
Yeah.
it led to
Oh, I
multiple
love that. I got mine over here
points.
too.
Yeah, multiple points of authentic connection, and
Yeah.
your focus on who's around you and how you can help them was evident to me from the beginning.
Thank you. That was really generous of you, Amy. Thank you. I appreciate your, that was heart centered and I received that. That was, thank you. Julie, what can women do to connect better, to show up, to give compliments when they feel nervous that, all this nervous energy, how can they just show up and do what I did? Amy, you got a good bum. And should they do that? Or they'll be like,
Wait,
that woman, so we're,
I just have to say, when was the last time any of us have heard the word fanny? Like, just saying.
well, I say fanny bum. I do not there. So I get nailed all the time because I won't say the FART word. That's worse than the FUCK word. There
Oh
are
my
certain
gosh,
things I grew up with. It's like, oh no, pooter skirt is those things that I say. So I like Fanny as I grew up with that too. I love it. She's my
so funny.
people. She's
Well, you
my
asked something
people.
about showing up and giving compliments. Well, I will
Yeah.
say this: we have to be a noticer in order to be able to give genuine
Mm,
compliments. So
you
nobody
have to be
wants
a
a
noticer.
compliment. Yeah, like nobody wants a compliment that's just rote. Like I'm going to give
Yeah.
everyone the same compliment.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
need to be really seeing you and
Yeah.
noticing something special and specific about you
Mhm.
that I can compliment you on.
And
And
that feels
even,
different than we know the just the random programming of compliments. But yeah, I don't go
yeah,
around
and
telling
here's
Amy
the
people
thing.
have good bumps. I don't think I've ever done that, but it felt authentic at the moment.
The other thing about compliments too is that a lot of times we compliment the external. And
Yeah.
in with you, it's especially easy to compliment the external because you always have some amazing outfit and your makeup looks great and your hair looks great. And it's always easy to do that. But the better compliment is to compliment someone for who they are on the inside, not what they look like. So thank you for being so kind to me today. Thank you for noticing how hard I worked on that project. Thank you for, whatever it is, but something about the person's insides, not about the outsides. The outsides are great, but the insides are better.
You guys edify every minute of this. It's just I this may be one of my favorite conversations today. I think it's, you know
You're
what?
so kind.
Well, it's so raw and real, and it's things that it isn't anything that we, like I said, that we planned on talking about. And I don't think we missed a beat. I think we talked about what needed to be talked about, where my heart led me. I think this has a big role in entrepreneurship. Um, I think it's the underbelly of the entrepreneurship world that we show up out there in social media that we see and deal with, and we're holding space for, and we're trying, and we're leaning in, and we're leaning out, and we're just trying to do our best and stay in this love and this grace and service. And I think that every day, every morning that I wake up at 3 a.m., which I do every day, and pray and I meditate and write out, it's about how can I do it better? How can I have more grace today? How can I be a better service? What can I do better than yesterday? And it's not like I'm not competing. It's just it feels more like expansion, from my
Mhm.
heart and more connected to God than my ego coming in and saying, they hurt your feelings, just don't answer that. Yeah, those days are so gone. I would rather have so
Mhm.
much more grace, love, and generosity than it just doesn't take anything to be, I think, more generous. And you two are both so generous. I'm probably mirroring that back at you, probably stealing more parts of your book. It doesn't take anything to be more generous. I imagine you guys said that in one of your books. Is there anything we've talked about that we haven't talked about? Let me see. Let me look down. Um, oh, I think you answered it. Practical steps people can take right now. I think we answered that. I think we answered, how do we plant new seeds? Um, I'm looking at seeing if there's anything really big. Um, Maybe we'll do a
Well,
part two for partnerships and because there's a lot of partnerships out there and how partnerships can be challenging. We know that I created Cauliflower Foods and with a partnership and it didn't end well. I could say it didn't end well, but it did. It was so divinely guided, and I have so much gratitude for that experience because not at first I didn't. There was wounding and injury and pain and blame on both sides. But now I look back on it and I said, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for that. So I'm so grateful for her. Regardless of what shows up in the world, I'm so grateful. And hopefully that love and grace will just seep into all of the cracks, which I think I do believe it does. But we can't change, how someone feels about something. But um, here, I'm going down the rabbit hole again. You guys got to pull me out, grab my ears, pull me back out. And
I hear you letting that golden resin into it more and more. Like you're healing it and making it more beautiful no matter what the it is. You're
yeah.
allowing it to be something beautiful where there were a lot of broken pieces.
Even if things are the narrative and things aren't things that come back that I don't like, I I I don't ignore it. I just release it. I think we have to just stay in what not just serves us, but like you said, it mirrors back service to the world. How does this serve the world if I talk about it? How does this serve the world? Is it beneficial? Is it helpful? Is it building out what I want, or is it stymieing me? And is it like a no growth zone? Because I think that when we take ownership of what someone else has done, it is like, boom, stops everything. But
Yeah.
I've
What
just
other
experienced,
people do is on them.
yeah, it just
You
stops everything. Yeah. But you know how many people take ownership of other people's actions? They're like, how could you do that to me? And boom, they take and they create this narrative, this story about themselves. And I think that I know we've been on too long, but I could just talk to you guys forever, but you're a plethora of information, a wealth of information, and it's so good. It's so good. I love you
Well,
both.
thank you for having us. And
Julie,
honestly, like
Amy.
what I just feel with this whole thing is just deep connection and
Oh yeah.
admiration the whole time. So I hope your listeners will feel the connection and the heart and the love that's happening in this conversation. And it was very organic and real the whole time. So I hope everyone will really feel that too.
I think you're absolutely right. And I looked down at again then where I was going to go and where I felt guided to go with just the two of you. And I love you both. I'm just gonna say that. I love spending time with you. I feel like my day is better by spending time with you. With the nuggets and reinforcements, I just feel like a little more illuminated today. So thank you. Thank you both for being on the show. Thank you for your wisdom, for your grace in the world, for just being who you are. I'm blessed to have you in my life. And I could
We
just
are
see,
too.
yeah, I could just see big things coming in the future. We aren't done yet, girls.
All right, let's go.
All right.
Let's grow.
Any parting wisdom, anything you want to say? How do people find you? We're going to have all the links to the book. I promise you, listeners, that we are going to people that are listening on podcast or on YouTube. We're going to have all the links how to find you. But why don't you guys tell me what's coming up and how people can find you? Julie, you
Go
up
ahead,
first?
Amy. Oh, okay,
Okay.
sure. Well, I think the best places to find us are on Instagram at You Grow Girl Community, all in one word. And we're both on LinkedIn too. So we're posting on LinkedIn pretty regularly in
Mm,
on a page called Your Growth Group. I know that's another YGG kind of acronym there, but we have
yeah.
Your Growth Group as the overarching brand over a lot of the things that we do. So depending if you're in business or if you're more of an entrepreneur or wherever you want to find us. But Your Growth Group on LinkedIn and at You Grow Girl Community on Instagram are good places to start.
Okay, guys, you're going to want their books. You're going to want to follow them out there. I love what you guys post. And I just wrote something down. I can't read my writing because I'm left-handed and I write upside down. And I'm like,
I
what
am
did I
too.
just write to say to them? Well, it doesn't matter. Just find them, follow them. You're not going to regret it. We'll have all the links. And thank you for joining us today on the Dana Grant Show. And until next time, stay heart-centered, be connected, and download this and listen to it again and again. It'll change your life. Bye for now.